All right. Good morning. I am so excited to have everybody here today. Let's go ahead and get started. I am going to be blitzing through a whole bunch of stuff. Uh, Good morning. I'm excited to have you here. We're going to cover so much ground today, showing you the big picture for how branding boosts your revenue, captures customers, and drives your business decisions. So, as we are getting started, I know people will still be trickling in for a little bit. Go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from. You can drop your location into the chat. Maybe tell us what kind of business that you run. This is going to be really exciting. We are streaming live. So we are streaming live to Facebook, YouTube, and through Riverside. So go ahead and just drop into the chat and tell us where you're coming from. I know that your time is valuable and this is a Friday morning, so you've got lots to do. So let's go ahead and jump right in. My name is Bryn Miracle. I'm the founder of Architangent, and we are an architecture, interior design, and branding firm in Houston, Texas. So I'll give you a little bit more of my backstory here in a little bit, but for now, I would love to see how many of you watching relate to this. If you're here, you are probably going to fall into one of these four categories of people. Maybe you are a startup. You've got all the ideas, you have all the energy. We wish we could bottle it and sell it because then we would be the richest people on earth. Maybe you are from a family-owned business. Maybe you are about to, hand that baton down to the next generation, or maybe you are that next generation and you are coming up, you're taking the reins and stepping into the leadership roles. Perhaps you are a seasoned business owner. This is not your first rodeo. You are doing all the things, you have all the strategies and ideas in place, and you've got a great team behind you. Maybe you are just curious. That is okay. You are the sponge trying to just soak up as much interesting and new information that you can. So if you're just joining us, go ahead and let us know in the chat, whichever platform you're streaming from, which of these do you identify with? Are you a startup, family owned, seasoned owner, or maybe you're just here for a good time? That's okay too. So my goal for you today is to expose you to the many benefits that your business can experience just from having a strong brand strategy in place. We're really only going to scratch the surface today, but don't worry, we do have additional content for anybody who wants to dive a little bit deeper. So, regardless of what type of business you own or how long you've been in business, you're likely going to be focused on these things, right? You're going to be concerned with the day to day operations, new products, new services. What are you growing? You're going to be concerned with your risk. And ultimately, you're going to be concerned, obviously, bottom line. You're on top of it, you're moving and grooving, you're doing it, it's feeling like it's all coming together until it's not, right? And that's the big mistake that we see again and again whenever we work with the businesses is that these owners they start making these big changes, but they start at the wrong step. They start with this inward revenue-based focus rather than this outward customer-based focus. And here's the thing. Customers, they don't care if you saved $500 a month on your lease by signing a 5-year term instead of a 3-year term, right? They only care about the impact to them and their experience. And so, how does your space look? How does it feel? Does it align with their expectations? And so, we have to make sure that we're not making business decisions that are separated from the reason our business exists, which is ultimately the customer, right? That's why we started our business is to give or do something for that person. And unfortunately, this can be a very costly mistake that we see these businesses making. So, according to Forbes, businesses that focus on the customer experience can actually see an 80% increase in revenue. And that's pretty amazing. Like, I'm sure you have all kinds of ideas that you could do with an extra 80% right now, right? And yet, only 44.5% of companies actually prioritize this. That's nuts. That's less than half. And so we have to ask ourselves, where's the disconnect? Why is this happening? Where are we dropping off here? And so the answer is actually going to be pretty multifaceted. But at the core, it's related to differentiation and it's related directly to the company's internal brand and identity. And I'll start defining that for you here in a little bit as well. But essentially, for each one of these business types, you have to figure out what makes your good offer great. Because when you compete on being just good, and this is a really important part, even if you're literally the best, you will still get lost in the competition, right? And so, if you haven't found a way to communicate all the things that make you amazing in a compelling way, you will be passed over, forgotten, ignored, and it's going to be really tough to get your customers coming in the door and coming to buy what you have to sell. Let us know in the chat wherever you're streaming from. Have you experienced this where you're really great at what you do, but you're still struggling? We'd love to know. So here's a sneak little peek into my story. So when I set out in 2018, I relied too much on my design and technical abilities to try to bring in the work, right? So sales is not something they generally teach in architecture school, but here we were. So the work, it was great. Of course, it was great, but the work wasn't the problem. Differentiation was. And so what I found is that in a sea of architecture firms, we're seen as a commodity, right? Or we're seen as this necessary evil in order to obtain a building permit. And so focusing on my firm's design abilities, that's not going to get anybody's attention. And so when we knew that design was the basis of all of our clients' success, but to our clients, design was just one more thing to do. And so it's like we were having these two different conversations. One was about the looks and one was about the cost. And my personal goal is that I wanted to change the world with good design, but I couldn't get anybody to listen. And so that's when I started to dig into that differentiation. And it was long and hard because I had no one to guide me, but I finally defined the secret sauce. And this was a revelation that I really had because we sat down with our clients in these vision sessions and strategy meetings, and that's when it hit me. Yes, we provide them design guidance, but more than that, we were providing them with business advice and brand strategy. And so that's the thing that helps them decide on, where's their new location, what kind of new services or products are they going to launch. We'd help them with ideas for programming and events, help them dig into what their target audience really wanted, and all kinds of other things. And that's when it really made sense to me that selling our clients on design was engaging them on the wrong step of the process. And so our clients, they're all business owners. They have this primary concern with how to launch and how to grow their company. And if you are a business owner, you probably have one of these three common goals. You want to make money, you want to grow the company, and you want to find satisfaction for yourself, your employees, and your customers. And so, knowing this, that's when I dialed into our offer to start with the first step, which is providing brand strategy and business advising to the clients. Okay, so I know some of you may be thinking that this is kind of far fetched, right? Like, how many people are going to go out there and start a business and not know who their customer is and not know what products to offer? Like, it can't be that hard, right? You've got it under control. So let's see if any of these sound familiar to you. You've got this great logo from Fiverr, no point overpaying for a logo. It's just a little picture. Company values, yeah, it's just a lot of words. Mission statements, it's probably tucked in a drawer somewhere. We're really shorthanded and I need to hire somebody this week so they can get started and help us out. Just signed a lease. Now we just need the architect to drop those plans so we can open the store in the next, couple days. Maybe we'll give them 60. Or maybe you found the perfect design on Instagram and we'll just copy that for your space. And maybe you don't even think that the space is necessary because, just a door, lights, ceiling, that's all you need. So you think you've got it under control? Maybe, but maybe not. So, if any of these phrases sound familiar, you may actually be experiencing the pitfalls of starting or growing a business without a clear brand strategy. So, have you ever said any of these to yourself? Go ahead and drop a yes in the chat, and it's okay. We won't judge you, but just want to know where you're at, where you're struggling. Now, as we already saw, this can cost you up to 80% growth in your revenue if you don't start with that brand strategy. So these are the actual problems that some of our clients face, right? Their brand is not standing out from competition. Their employees are not on the same page as them. It's really a struggle to get their employees to buy into what they're doing as a company. No one in the firm is able to make a decision without the leader there, which then sucks away your time as the CEO. It's really hard to find good employees. It's like a revolving door. They're just in and out and on to the next one. That costs you a ton of money. Maybe your space is not ready because you didn't budget enough time or dollars to get it done. When you open, the crowds were great, but now they're waning and you don't really understand why. And maybe you have a bunch of customers, but they're never repeating and you can't understand why they're going to your competition. So these are the actual challenges that they see. So let's go ahead and circle back, right? So you're starting or growing your business and you have this the big ideas and plans. So let's just go ahead and imagine you are the driver of a bus. You get to decide where the bus goes, right? You're going somewhere. Passengers start boarding, but you don't tell them where you're going. You don't tell them how long the ride will take or any planned pit stops on the way. You don't tell them when lunch will be or when the bathroom breaks are going to be. I think you're going to be in for a really bad trip. I don't think it's going to be very much fun, right? And so, as the CEO, you are that bus driver, and those passengers that we just talked about are your employees and your customers, right? And so, before you go embarking on any kind of journey, you need to make sure that you have a roadmap and that you communicate it with your team and with your customers. That's hugely important. Okay, so why does this matter? Right? Is the mission, vision, value, like, is that really that important? And the research says that it is. So, according to the Harvard Business Review, 46% of consumers say they would actually pay more for a brand that they trust. So, every other person who walks in your door would be willing to pay you more money. Like, that blows my mind. 64% of consumers say that shared values are a driving factor in their brand relationships. And yet, 13% of consumers say they would pay up to 50% more with brands making a positive impact. So, I don't know about you, but that mission statement starts to feel a little bit more important. So, if this is making sense, go ahead and drop a yes in the chat wherever you're streaming from. And so here is where things start to get really fun. We can look at the statistics all day long, but I know that sometimes it can feel like it's this kind of disconnect from reality, right? It's like numbers from somebody else, somewhere else. And so what we did is we started actually measuring our own clients. And so we put together the brand strategy, paired that up with these common business goals, making money, growing, and satisfaction. And these are the actual results that our clients are seeing. And I think this is pretty compelling. They've experienced a 35% increase in revenue since opening, 25% increase in revenue, over $500,000 in savings on their construction build out costs because they're able to make those decisions quickly and they don't doubt what they're doing. 50% increase in membership, and in addition to that, we've got happy, engaged employees, increased retention, attraction. I mean, these employees love the places that they are working. We've got connection with the ideal customers, repeat customers, raving reviews, referrals, social buzz, and all the confidence that comes with that is that positive feedback loop that this starts to create. And then we can say, okay, so strategy is probably important. I'm with you here. But what the heck does branding have to do with architecture and interior design? Well, I'm glad you asked because it really has everything to do with it. So let's start with branding. What is that, right? It is actually made up of two parts. We call the first part your internal brand. And this, you can start to imagine it as if you were a person. And this is the fundamental, like, what do you want to be when you grow up type of question. And so this will start to encompass things like your purpose, your mission, your vision, values, behaviors, your customer persona, like how are you going to interact with those people? Who are your competitors? How are you different? How do you position yourself in the market? Then we have the second part, which we call the external brand. And this is really ultimately the reputation that you have amongst the public, right? It's what they think about you. And this is going to be based on how your brand presents itself to the world. So, your external brand is made up of things like tone of voice, your narrative, the stories you tell, how you message, even down to your vocabulary. Logo, obviously, colors, fonts, patterns, packaging, your storefront, the building or the space that you have for the customers to visit. And ironically, these last two things, the logo and color, that's the only thing we tend to think of when we think of branding. And yet it encompasses so much more than that. So let's talk design, right? So we've established what branding is. What about design? So fundamentally, is how we interact with the world and it is experience. So thinking about it, really example, look, but because remember those little flip things, and you have these tiny little buttons. Like, that was not very pleasant. And then iPhone comes out, it's sleek, it looks really nice, but it's intuitive. And that changed the entire industry. So that is design. And then we can think about clothing, right? Clothing is designed and it can embarrass us or empower us. And it's tied really closely to our sense of identity. We can think about our home, where it can be a haven or it can be a source of stress. Maybe it's a really terrible layout and you're always bumping into each other in the kitchen and just like makes you angry. And then we have cars. For most of us in the US, we are driving something, and what we choose to drive around in, that can say a lot about us and what we value. And so design, in the context of buildings, is massively influential in our lives. And this is why we think architecture is so important. It's because we spend 90% of our time indoors as Americans. That is a huge amount of time for us to have formative experiences inside of spaces. And these experiences can help shape who we are as people, our hopes and dreams, ambitions, our beliefs. And we believe that this is going to be a huge opportunity. So, if we want to provide the best experience for our customers, it has to start with strategy. Then it can go to the brand and then design. So, the intersection of these three, that is the foundation of a successful business. Strategy will inform the branding. Branding guides the design. Design creates the experience, and the experience is the foundation of your success. So is this starting to make sense? I hope so. Go ahead and drop a yes in the chat if this is making sense for you. And so if you haven't noticed, I'm a huge fan of research. So here we go. Here's some more stats for you. For those of you who love the statistics, 50% of consumers expect a small business to have a larger purpose or meaning behind their brand. When I saw this, it kind of surprised me, even though I'm in the space, because you always expect this from the big corporations. Like, what are you for the environment, or are you, for women's rights, or whatever it is, right? But then you think about small businesses, and the consumers expect that from me. That's kind of important. 66% of consumers say that a brand's values are very important to their purchasing decisions. That's two-thirds. That's crazy. They expect you to have a purpose, and they expect you to have values, and that's important to how they spend their money. 75% of consumers say they expect a company to understand their unique needs, right? This is beyond the days where you could send out a generic mailer and then like hope it sticks. Like, everything has to be fine tuned, right? And so these customers, they're telling us what they want. And so we need to listen, or we risk being left behind. But enough statistics. Let's see where the rubber meets the road. Can you answer these questions with certainty? And if not, you need a brand strategy. This is a good kind of, litmus test. So, why do you exist? Who do you serve? What does that customer really want for you? Not just what you've already made or are offering, but is that what they want? How are you going to deliver it to them? How are you going to stand out from your competition? And let's see, what other experiences do they get from you? How does your product or service further your business goals? How do you align what you're doing with where you want to go? Does your competition look at you with jealousy and awe, and it's like, how are they doing it? I want to do that. Does your new product or service fit your vision and mission? Because we're guilty. Shiny object syndrome, like, ooh, yeah, I could do that. And you see all these other businesses, your competition usually doing something. But if it doesn't fit your reason for existing, then maybe you should rethink it. Do your employees on board? Are they on board with you where you're going? Is your brand consistent? Are you putting your best foot forward, making a good impression? Does your space support the work that you're doing? And does it appeal to your customers? So these are the tangible impacts of having a strategy in place. It really allows you to know, right? So who are you going to hire? Where are you going to locate? What product or service are you going to launch next? Where to market and spend your advertising dollars, because that's going to be hugely important. We don't want to just throw money down the drain. What charities do you want to align with? Remember, back to that purpose and the values and the customers who want to pay us more money if we have these things. So which one are you going to align with? How to design your space, what branding elements should look like, And then strategy also allows you to act, right? And so this is where the confidence comes for you as the CEO to make those decisions and not stay up at night, wringing your hands and not being able to sleep, because you can act with clarity, confidence, at the right time, with the right people. You will act with your customers' interest in mind and with your business in mind. And this is the way that you're going to further your goals. And so the risks of starting at the wrong step. So if you just jump towards, let's get a logo, let's open our store, the risks should be obvious, but here's another one. Right? Starting with verbal and visual identity can actually produce this kind of Frankenstein brand where none of it really makes sense. And this is usually going to be a subconscious type of issue where your customers will come in and they'll look around and just something feels off. And I think we can all kind of pull out a place that we've been where it just didn't feel right or it didn't make sense. And we just chose not to go back there. That is usually a sign that the strategy and then their actions, they're not aligning. There's that mismatch. So instead, we have to leverage the knowledge that we get through the brand strategy process, and then we're able to act with confidence. And those decisions, it takes out the guesswork. You don't lose time to doubt and reworking things and wondering if you're doing the right thing. And so strategy will inform your brand identity. When it's time to actually do the visuals, these are the tangible questions that a brand strategy will help you answer. And so, if you don't have a brand strategy in place, how do you make these types of decisions? So, I'll just go through a few of these, right? Like, what about my colors and fonts? Do I focus on Instagram moments in my space, or do I go more classic? Like, is that even a thing anymore? Do you embrace formal or go funky? Do you need lounge space? Do you need like the Google, cool amenities like slides? Should you go into the ground floor of a building, or is it okay for you to go a little higher? These questions are real questions that we cover with our clients when they're trying to make decisions. Does the building need to be a new, class A office space, or maybe like a little bungalow cottage out in more of like, suburbs or in the neighborhood? What about operating out of your home versus an office? What will the clients think of that? How does your business sound, right? When we write content and ads, what about messaging? And what about the logo? Does it match the energy that I want to convey? Business name, that's a big one, and even companies who've already picked these things, there is still room to tweak and leverage and celebrate something that will help you propel to that next step. All right. So, as we kind of wrap up the teaching portion, I do want to hit you with one last stat. Here we go, consistency, right? So, consistency is something we know, right? It should be there, but it's hard. And I'm guilty, right? Consistency of the branding. We have this running an hour, right? So channel, you're 20% boost in revenue. And it has been said that happiness is the fulfillment of expectations. And so when we think that brand strategy and identity helps set those expectations for your customers and employees, and ultimately it will help your business thrive. So this is going to conclude the learning segment for today. If you're eager to create a brand strategy for your company, you are in luck. We are launching a DIY self-paced course that we are calling the Why of Design. It's coming in January. We will have tons of great perks for the early adopters, including deep discounts, extra resources. So let me give you a sneak peek of the course content because I think this will be really fun for you. Okay, so it's going to be divided into 4 different modules. So, like we were just learning, we're going to have the first 2 that's going to build on your brand's foundation, which we call the internal brand. The second 2 modules will guide you through your external brand elements. So, module 1, we're going to be all about building the strong foundation. We're going to be covering purpose, vision, mission, values, behaviors. You'll get video content for each lesson, along with workbooks full of engaging activities that you can do, either on your own as CEO, or if you want to bring in your leadership team or even your full company. That's another way you can do it. Module two, this will start to focus on the market landscape. This one's all about showing you how to create a customer persona and understand their needs, as well as the fundamentals of positioning your company in the larger marketplace. So, we're going to teach you how to identify your actual competition, not just who you think is your competition, but like how do you actually pick out the alternatives to what you are offering. And then we're going to show you the actual research steps that you need to take to uncover what makes your company different so you can leverage that to your advantage. Module three, that's where we start to develop your brand's voice. We have all kinds of activities in there that will show you how to choose the right tone of voice, craft your messaging blocks, hone your narrative, and that way your story of why you started your business starts to resonate with real customers. And last, we will have module four. This one is extra fun, at least for me, it is. It is all about the visual aspects of your brand. And this one can be kind of intimidating to a lot of clients, but we're going to teach you how to think about your company's look, including the colors and fonts and core graphics and more. We will even introduce you to product packaging, digital spaces, and of course, physical space design concepts that will prepare you for that growth. It will help give you that platform then to take it to the next step. Now, here is the best part. At least I think it's the best part. All of this content that you just saw is actual content and results, like the deliverables that we use and create for our clients who opt into the done for you approach, right? So they come in person, we have workshops, we do it for them. So all of the methods that we use during our workshops, brainstorming sessions, our analysis reports, activities, everything like that is going to be in this course. And funny enough, our done for you bundled price that these clients are paying us today is $19,000. And we're going to offer you the same content for a fraction of that cost. So let's break it down. The course is going to be priced two ways, right? So the first is individual modules, and that's going to be best for a business that needs just a laser focused tune up on like a single strategy component. They're working really well, but maybe there's just that one little piece that's off. Startups. So if you're in the feasibility or due diligence stage, this would be really good just to kind of start at the beginning. And this will help you with your pitches and as you go out and seek funding. So those individual modules, those are going to be $497 each. Then we're going to give you a four module bundle, right? And this is going to be best for the businesses that want that comprehensive, rock solid strategy identity. It's great for startups, new businesses, existing ones looking to supercharge the growth. Or maybe if you're like, "Oh, I scrap everything and start over, that's okay too. We got you there. So this bundle will be given to you, all four modules with the discount of 5% at $1889. And since you're one of our early adopters and you've shown the initiative by showing up today, you want to focus on your business, we are going to be giving you a 50% discount to all the webinar attendees. And because there's always more, right? So for $994, you get everything we just talked about. We're also going to give you all of the early bird specials, right? Because we're launching in January. So along with your 50% discount for being a webinar attendee, you're going to get a free workbook bundle, which is going to have things like the customer experience touchpoint guide. We're going to have branding, a guide for digital and physical spaces, behavior-based hiring. So how do you use and leverage your company values to determine who should be joining your team? And then we'll give you a whole list of KPIs to see how that strategy is actually starting to make that impact for your company. We will also offer you discounted access to one-on-one feedback from me. So every module you complete, I will review that with you. Exclusive add-ons, obviously private community group where you can talk to others going through this same program with you. So if you want in on the offer and if you're ready to put in the work, because it is a lot of work, but if you want to take your brand from boring to badass, let's do it. So here's how you can get it. You can go ahead and type in full course into the chat wherever you're streaming from. So, Facebook Live, Riverside, YouTube, just go ahead and drop full course and we will add your name to the list. Or if it's easier, if you're, struggling maybe with the streaming, that's okay. If it's easier, you just send us an email with the subject full course to info@architangent.com. So Thank you again so much for spending your time this morning with us. I hope this has given you that motivation and the boost to go ahead and get that branding in place, get your revenue raised, and I will start taking questions. So if you have them, go ahead and type in questions that you've got into the chat. I've got someone assisting me right now. So she will be looking over all the different platforms and relaying those to me. Thank you again for spending time with us. All right, here we go. Thank you, Chandra, Lori. Nice to have y'all here. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to just pop them in the chat. I'll be here for a little bit longer. And there's also a link that we are posting where you can go ahead and sign up directly for the 50% off. So if you want, you can go ahead and just click that and go there. And let me see if we have any other questions on other platforms. I appreciate y'all being here today, and hopefully you're going to have a great weekend ahead. This will give you some things to think about. Perfect. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and close it down. It looks like we've got everything we need. Again, if you have any questions after the fact, something pops in your head, that is okay. Just go ahead and send us an email. Again, info@architangent.com. Reach out to us on social media. We'd be happy to engage with you there. And we look forward to having you. Here we got one. Here's a question from Kevin. How important are social media campaigns? Great question, Kevin. So it depends, right? Everything depends. So it depends on what type of business you're doing, right? So if your customers are on those social media platforms, then yes, it is hugely important. So, right. So we engage a lot on Facebook, Instagram, and a lot more of those visual platforms. That's where a lot of our customers are going to be interested to see what we have to offer. Um, if you are doing something that is not so visual, then maybe you would find them like if you're more of like a B2B business and you're dealing with the C suite, maybe LinkedIn would be a more appropriate platform to start outreach. And it has to be really targeted, right? So you don't want to just kind of cast this wide net. You want to be really focused and specific on where you're actually going to be reaching your customers. And that's something we can definitely help with in terms of, digging into what your company is offering and who your customer is, and then what that strategy should be. And we will cover all of that in the course as well. Great question. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. You'll have a great day ahead and enjoy your weekend. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you.